What's up everyone, OJ here, welcome back to another video. I want to first and foremost say Happy New Year to everyone. 2021 is going to be absolutely amazing. You know why? Because we're talking about Metroid today. And yes, I am 99.9999999% sure that Metroid, a new Metroid game, is coming to the Nintendo Switch this year. This year, I tell you, okay? So for those who don't know, I'm on this amazing podcast every single Saturday over there on the awesome Spawn Wave channel. And we were talking about this, okay, about Nintendo's 2021. And, you know, I think there's going to be a big year. Like, this is going to be a huge year for Nintendo. But Metroid is one of those things that I've been talking about could be happening from the studio Mercury Steam. Now, if you've watched my previous videos on Metroid, then shout outs, you guys are awesome. If you're somebody new and you haven't seen them, make sure you go watch them. But this is a story. This is something that I've been tracking for, I would say, about a year now. Like, when it comes to my own sources and what I've been kind of just trying to figure out about what's going down with 2D Metroid and the Switch. But before we get into all of that, we have to set it up. We have to break down what is going on here. Where is the backing? Where is the evidence of 2D Metroid? Where is the origins of it? Because for a while, Nintendo kind of went away from it, but we have to start. It starts here, guys. It starts right with this game that's in my hands. It starts with Metroid Samus Returns. And if you want to go a bit before that, the Castlevania game that Mercury Steam did on the 3DS, because that was the first time that Nintendo got into a partnership with Mercury Steam and Konami, but Mercury Steam, the development studio, to see what they can do on Nintendo hardware with a game that was exclusive at the time. So that goes all the way back to the Castlevania game. But we're going to be talking about Metroid Samus Returns. That is the studio Mercury Steam. It was on the Nintendo 3DS, which is, I still have my Nintendo 3DS right here. This is my not Ocarina, what am I talking about? Not Ocarina, Majora's Mask Special Edition Nintendo 3DS that I got. And you have to also remember, Metroid Samus Returns had this amazing freaking amiibo collection thing. I haven't opened it. This was one of the best amiibos, period. It was a double pack, came with Samus and came with a Metroid, and it was all like, it's like gooey. It's like kind of like, you know, like you can like push in like jelly. It's a really cool amiibo. So I feel that between all of that, between Metroid Samus Returns doing well on the 3DS, and also with the amiibo, and also just with the pedigree of that game was really good. It was my swan song for the Nintendo 3DS. Like, that was the last game that I played. It was still in my 3DS when I decided to grab all this to do this video. It was still in there, you know, but now I actually have the cartridge here. It's inside the case, nice cartridge. But yeah, man, like, this game is something that I want to talk about because this is where the origins of this start. So Mercury Steam, they're the same developers who did Castlevania Lords of Shadow, if you guys remember that game, on the PS3 and 360, and then from there they moved on to that Castlevania game on the Nintendo 3DS, and then we kind of didn't hear anything about them because Castlevania Lords of Shadow 2 was an absolute disaster. Like, it was just a disaster for that game, and it did nowhere near what Konami wanted to do, and there was a lot of development troubles, and there was a big blow up of that studio. So then all of that happens, right? And then the Castlevania game comes on the 3DS, and then we just don't hear about them for a while. Then all of a sudden, Nintendo at E3, I think it was E3 2017, that was the same year that they announced Metroid Prime 4, they said, hey, we've also got this to be announced. And it was Metroid Samus Returns, which is a remake of Metroid 2 on the Game Boy. And it was amazing. People really loved the upgrades and additions to the game. I thought it was phenomenal. It's definitely one of my favorite Metroid games out there. Now, for those, like, full disclaimer, I love me some Metroid Prime. And trust me, we're going to talk about Metroid Prime at a different time. At a different time, we're going to talk about Metroid Prime. But this video, like, Metroid, when it comes to 2D Metroid, that's like my favorite. I love 2D Metroid. I love Super Metroid. That's my favorite Metroid game of all time. I love Metroid Fusion. I love Metroid Zero Mission. Those are my favorite ones over the 3D Metroid games. I just like the sleekness, the style, kind of what it does. It's just awesome. I mean, don't get me wrong. Metroid Prime is amazing, but 2D Metroid to me has like a special place in my heart. That's like what I grew up with. I love the original Metroid and all of that and what they did like with the 2D game. So honestly, when I was on the Spawncast, kind of getting back to this here, when I was on the Spawncast and I asked Nate the Hate, Direct Feed Games, I asked him like, hey, what is Mercury Steam working on? He essentially said they're working on a 2D Metroid game. He confirmed it twice that they're working on a 2D Metroid game. Now, I already knew this. I just wanted to make sure that I ask him once again, so it's very clear. So that's why I'm 99.999999999% sure that 2D Metroid is coming to Switch, and I think it's going to be this year. Unless there's some type of delay or something happens, I think 2D Metroid is coming this year, because I already was tracking some different sources that I had about Mercury Steam, that company in particular, working on a 2D Metroid game after the success of Metroid Samus Returns. And to be honest, if Metroid Samus Returns was released on the Nintendo Switch instead of the 3DS, we'd probably be looking at a game that sold like 3 to 4 million copies, maybe even more. Honestly, like, the only reason why that game didn't do better was because it was at the end of the Nintendo 3DS's life cycle. A lot of people were expecting there to be maybe like a port of that game or something like that, and they really wanted to get into the Nintendo Switch mode. A lot of the late 3DS games didn't do anywhere near what they would have done if they were released like 2 or 3 years prior. So like, let's say like 2014 or like 2015, they would have done a lot better, but the Switch had already been out. Nintendo fans were looking to play games on there. So I honestly feel that the next Metroid game that we do see, it's going to be a 2D Metroid game when it comes to like release, right? So the big question, which I tried to pry out of them there on the Spawncast, is what is it going to be though? Is it going to be a new 2D Metroid game, or is it going to be a remake or re-release like Metroid Samus Returns, which that was more like a remake. It wasn't a re-release. It was a remake of the Game Boy game. I personally feel that there could be a little bit more. There could be an announcement of a remake, and there could also be a new game. I want it to be a new game. I would love for it to be like, let's say, a follow-up to Metroid Fusion or a follow-up to Super Metroid. I mean, that's what I want, because we have these older games which Nintendo can release on Virtual Console. Yes, remakes are great and they're awesome, but honestly, a lot of the way that the 2D Metroid games play, they all play really good, even like on GBA. Metroid on the Game Boy, that was a little bit rough, so I can see them remaking that. But like Metroid Zero Mission and Metroid Fusion, all those are really good on the GBA. And if Nintendo just brought them over to the Switch via like Virtual Console or the Nintendo Switch Online, more like it, because there is no real Virtual Console. So Nintendo Switch Online, I think people would be happy with that. We already have Super Metroid on there, so just bring over the other ones, and then they can say, hey, let's get a new 2D Metroid. Now, however, they might not do that, because you never know. Nintendo is unpredictable, and they did such a great job with the remake of Metroid Samus Returns or Metroid 2. They might want to say, hey, let's see what we can do again with the remake. So what game would they remake? Well, to me, there's only really one option. We talked about Super Metroid, and some people say, get a Super Metroid remake. And yeah, maybe, but maybe not, okay? Maybe not on that one. I would say the original Metroid, Metroid Zero Mission. That would be the game to remake, in my opinion. It has the great content with Zero Suit Samus in there, right? So that's also good. And it's the original Metroid game. There are so many people out there that do not know the origins of Samus, that do not know the origins of what's going on with Metroid, that do not know what everything is. And if you bring back that original game with amazing graphics, 2D sleekness, and art style, I'm telling you, that is going to be an instant hit with old school fans and new school fans alike, because there's a lot of Super Metroid perfectionists or purists out there, not perfectionists, but purists out there that are like, no, don't touch it. You know, it's already really good. It's perfection. We already got it on the Virtual Console. And I agree. But Metroid Zero Mission, that's a game that would be really cool if that got a facelift, because of how dynamic that game is. The original Metroid and extra content in there, it's a perfect candidate for it to be re-released. And if you have success with that, then maybe you go with Metroid Fusion or maybe some of the other Metroid games that they can think about. But Mercury Steam, Metroid Zero Mission, the original game, that's the one that needs to be brought back, and I think it's going to happen more sooner than later. Now, will we see Metroid Prime 4? That's also something that I know some of you guys want to talk about in this video. Will we see Metroid Prime 4? And I would say, yes, this will be the year. I think I've been saying this for like a couple years now. Don't like disregard everything else, okay? This will be the year that we see Metroid Prime 4. We see it. Not that it's released. I am not saying that it'll be released this year, but this will be the year that we see it. We get the first footage, first trailer, something of Metroid Prime 4 outside of a JPEG title screen, which was ultimately scrapped in terms of that version of the game to be rebooted with Retro Studios at the helm. And they've been hiring like everybody. They've got like Naughty Dog people there. They've got like EA people there. They got like everybody that's worked on like all the big franchises. So this is going to be big. Take their time, make sure it's good, but I do feel that Metroid Prime 4 this year, 2D Metroid this year, potentially Metroid Prime trilogy this year as well. There are a lot of Metroid goodness coming up. Heck, we got a lot of Nintendo goodness for 2021. So throughout this month, we're definitely going to be taking some time to go over some of the franchises that I think could be returning. We're getting our first footage of remakes, re-releases on the Nintendo Switch. It's going to be an absolutely exciting year, man. So I'm happy to bring that to you guys. So what do you guys think about Metroid Zero Mission if they're doing a remake? That being the game. And also, what do you think about a new 2D Metroid coming from Mercury Steam? Because like I said, I'm 99.999999999% sure that there is some form of 2D Metroid game coming from Mercury Steam in 2021 for the Nintendo Switch. I'm pretty sure about that at this point. So hopefully I'm right. I think I'm right. And we'll see what happens. Of course, link in the description below if you want to see the podcast where we talked about it. But what do you guys think? I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Check out the links in the description. We've got Twitter. Go to give us a follow on there. Stay up to date on all the latest gaming news and information. Also, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and share this video if you can. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll catch you for the next one. Peace.